New week, well, I guess began yesterday on Sunday, but this new work week of Monday in mid September. Wow, time's going quick, isn't it? I'll see you in court. I've never heard those words, but maybe on TV or elsewhere I heard them, and it sounds quite threatening. And it sounds scary to see that. I remember being served a notice to make an appearance many years ago now, and that was quite scary and a little bit sleepless. It was all resolved and obviously so, and without difficulty. But the anticipation or the anxiety, I should say, of being in court was nerve wracking. Frankly, maybe you've felt that. Certainly, we've heard those words on the TV, what have you. But think of with that in the back of our mind, in Psalm 84, the sons of Korah. Now, when we think of the Psalms, we usually think of David, of course, for obvious reasons. But this psalm, amongst many, are written by other people, in this case, the sons of Korah. And in Psalm 84, allow me to read verse 1. How lovely is your tabernacle, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, verse 2, yes, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Interesting, isn't that? Quite contrasting to what we anticipate or feel in anticipation of being called to court. The sons of Korah here are saying, my soul longs, even faints for the courts of the Lord. Not running, but they're anticipating that. Even the sparrow, they go on to write, has found a home. The swallow a nest for herself where she may lay her young. My King and my God, blessed are those, pardon me, who dwell in your house. They will still be praising you, Selah. Think about that. The sons of Korah, longing for, even fainting for the courts of the Lord, desiring to be there, and the blessing that they mention in verse 4 of those who dwell in your house. You see, that's the court. That's the courts the psalmist is referring to. It's where believers are gathered together. The courts, looking that up in the Hebrew this morning, it's the idea there would be the square where people are gathering there, where people are gathering who have a common interest. And in this case, it's the Lord. And there's a refreshment, and the Lord is just blesses that desire, that intent, that activity, being where God's people are, bluntly stated. It's a real gift from God to set aside time to meet with his people and just rub shoulders, share communion, sing song, hear the word, praying together. There's just blessing. And the sons of Korah, their souls were longing for this. But as I mentioned a moment ago, when we think of the Psalms, the author of them, primarily, most of us would think of David, of course. And David mentions the same idea. In Psalm 63, as the superscription states, this is a Psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. And in verse 11, he refers to himself as the king. So this is most likely written when the king, he's a king, and he's fleeing from his son Absalom. And you know the story there. We've talked about that before. What a traumatic time, a painful time for David. And he opens up this Psalm 63. He says, "Oh God," remember, this is in a time of pain and troubled spirit for David. "Oh God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh longs for you, where there is no water. So I have looked for you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory." One of the great blessings, as forementioned, is this sanctuary, tabernacle, court of the Lord. It's one of the great places to see the power and glory of God. One of the great joys on a Sunday, in our case, where the believers are gathered together, is hearing testimony and seeing the power of God. And when you look and know some of the testimony of where these various saints, when the Lord got a hold of them, or they realized the goodness of the Lord and submitted their lives to Him, to call Him Lord and Savior, and say, wow, that's powerful. You might say, or that was the circumstance. Who'd have thought? Wow, it's a great place. It's an essential place for the believer. It's a necessary place. You see, well, that's Old Testament-y, Jim. Well, let's go to New Testament. Hebrews chapter 10. Let us hold fast, verse 23, Hebrews 10. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. So be solid in these things. For he who promised is faithful. God's faithful. Now, verse 24, Hebrews 10. Let us consider one another in order to stir up love and good works, not forsaking the assembling, the gathering, the congregating of ourselves together, as is the manner or habit of some, but exhort one another, so much more as you see the day approaching. The day is approaching, I can assure you that. We're seeing it more and more each day, the day approaching. And to gather together. Why? For our sake? Yes, for our sake. But lest we feel selfish or what have you. The writer of Hebrews is telling us to gather considering one another. Considering one another beyond your own boundaries. Who gets blessed? I get blessed. Others get blessed. It's just all around good. So, as the psalmist declares, let me read it without comment here. I'll read from David's Psalm 63. O God, you are my God. Early will I seek you. My soul thirsts for you in a dry, thirsty land where there is no water. So I've looked for you in the sanctuary to see your power and your glory. Consider these things as the day is approaching. God bless you. Maranatha.